All right, everybody. This is Aaron Davis with my tactical twin, Eric Davis. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, man. I think this is the evening I needed this last week. Man, it's nice to hang out with you.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's behind the scenes, audience. We've had some issues trying to get a couple episodes put out here, and you know, with both of us. I mean, I'm sure you can hear in my voice, audience, that my voice is a little jacked up. I think I mentioned it on another episode that I've been dealing with, of course, what's assumedly the Omicron COVID-19, which has not been, I just stress, not been a big deal at all. It's just been like a cold, but it seems like it's been hanging on at least. I've been dealing with it for about 4 weeks, at least now with this voice thing still going on. But Eric, I wanted to show you a tip and probably why my voice is okay to even talk right now. So can you see these Lay's potato chips?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
I've heard that. My problem is I don't keep chips in the house at all. They're the bane of my existence.
Well,
I'm just playing with you, bro.
Well, me too, but so I knew we were going to record tonight, so I ran by the convenience store on my way home to get this bag of chips because we've got another awesome interview coming up this week. So I wanted to make sure that I could get my voice all cleaned up. Yeah, just real quick, it may be goofy hearing me chomp on some chips here, but Eric, you remember that singer-songwriter I recorded with and, did, quite a bit of work doing some touring and stuff with her, Yancey?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when I was doing a recording with her once, she had gotten this tip from another pretty big artist. Whenever you're in the recording studio and you're having a little bit of trouble, go grab some Lay's potato chips. Because I guess the salt and the fat and the whole package seems to kind of clean up your throat and excuse me and coat it, make your vocal cords work a little better.
Yeah, I've read a couple articles about that. So yeah, I think there's efficacy to that. And it's funny when we talk about this. You and I have both had COVID at the same darn time. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, where everybody asks us when they meet us, so when someone punches you, does your brother feel it? Well, I guess once I got COVID, I sent it over to you, 1,000 miles away.
Man, I'm gonna get you in a solid rear naked choke the next time I see you because you gave it to me through the well, of course.
Let me see if I can work on my defenses for that.
Yeah, awesome. I'm sure you can. It'd probably be difficult for me at this point.
Well, I'll
been
try.
Training so hard.
Well,
and frankly, Aaron, before we move on, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to get a little bit political here. I will tell you that I feel like I got over COVID a lot faster than everybody around me because I had a source of ivermectin.
Oh, yeah.
And I took some, and within a few dosages, it's probably bad English there, I felt better. So, but anyway, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we can talk about all kinds of stuff like that right now. There's so much going on in the news that, it's just amazing that even in the mainstream, right? We're talking about part of the mainstream is letting the truth out. But then the rest, including the White House, are still doubling down on one possible treatment, a vaccine.
Well,
but
shout out to Joe Rogan, man, and also Spotify for backing him, man. I'm pretty pumped to see that. So, but anyway,
since we're on that topic, let's get this out of the way. We're not anti-vaxxers one bit. My kids have had vaccinations. I guarantee I've had a lot of vaccinations, tetanus several years ago. But, when a world promotes only one treatment, you at least got to question it, right?
Well, especially when regardless what anybody wants to admit, there is peer-reviewed data on therapeutics. Regardless of what therapeutic you want to discuss, there is real peer-reviewed data. And when it's being suppressed, it's questionable.
Oh, well, there's one doctor that had, in a peer-reviewed medical journal, they pulled his report, and he's in the process of suing them because it went against their contract with him or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it's everybody knows what's going on with censorship of about everything on, especially social media, including us.
Oh yeah, we're throttled all the time.
Yeah, but that's enough about that.
Let's talk about Tenacor. Tenacor continues to innovate with pressure-tested, purpose-driven gear from holsters to mag pouches, like one of our favorite holsters, the Khartoum 3 AIWB OWB, the Abdo AIWB mag pouch, and now the new finally released Zero belt. This one-of-a-kind belt is made of solid military-grade webbing that isn't overly stiff or over-engineered. It's intended to be comfortable, yet supports your carry gear. One other unique attribute is the buckle feeds the tail under the opposite webbing, providing infinite adjustments, which all purpose-built carry belts should. If you're interested in the Zero belt or any of the mentioned products, visit Tenacor.com and use EVO 2021 at checkout for 10% off.
So, Eric, I thought it'd be fun to talk about a little journey that I've been on. Most people that are listeners of the show have recalled several conversations about me needing to get cataract surgery. And I finally did that. And one of the results was I see 20/15 past about 3 or so feet. Unfortunately, that meant that I could not use iron sights anymore. Now, in a pinch, I can use iron sights. I can still teach with iron sights. I can demonstrate techniques with iron sights, but I just do not want to rely on them for self-defense, right? So I finally hunted down a company, which ended up being C&H Precision. They milled my little Glock 42 380. They milled it for a Holosun 507K. And I'll just say, I think eventually we're going to have some of those guys on to talk about their company and what they've done for the industry to shore up modular systems on pistols. But they treated me really well, got me, a great turnaround time. I'm real pleased with how they got that done. And so I finally got it in, and probably a couple days later, I took it to the range to test it out and zero it. Amazing enough, for some crazy reason, it was zeroed right when I got there.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know if that was by chance or if they have some way to at least rough the zero in, since they actually installed the optic. They want you to send it in so they fit your optic perfectly. So when I got it zeroed, I went to testing it. with, probably about 100, 120 rounds, which I know isn't a huge sample size, but bear with me here. So I ran it through the paces with just some normal drills, nothing fancy, 2 hands, freestyle shooting. But the key to me was, of course, running my normal full metal jacket practice ammo and my carry ammo to make sure they were both running well. Oh, and I digressed a little bit. To ensure there were no cycling issues, or at least help that there were no cycling issues, I also got a tungsten guide rod from the Glock store that actually has a slightly reduced recoil spring that was marketed actually as helping these 42s not have as many, not be as finicky with ammo choices. So the key test that I did was running all those rounds through a bunch of single hand, as limp as I could hold the gun, tests of rapid fire. I mean, I literally sat the gun, took the gun and held it out to my side to where I had nothing behind, not my forearm, not behind the gun. And I just sat there and rattled off all kinds of rounds, both types, and it ran perfect. So, and the reason why I go into, Eric, the cycling of that, it was so difficult to find a company that would mill that 42. And there was even a little bit of back and forth between me and C&H because some of the guys that took the order weren't fully involved, and they were questioning it once I sent the 42 in, because some of those guys hadn't seen a 42 come in the shop. And since they were one of just a couple that I found, I thought, is there a reason for this, right? Are people not milling them because there's cycling issues, right? So I was pleasantly surprised and real happy that I definitely feel that I can trust it. I'll keep testing it, but I think the test, Eric, don't you agree? If that gun's not going to cycle that optic, it's not going to do it when I have those single-handed limp grips. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's at least anecdotally, that's a good test. And I mean, you talked about your sample size. I would say your sample size, along with your attempt to induce failures, is definitely a good test. We're not scientists. We don't have the capabilities to do scientific testing. I suppose if we wanted to grab some sponsors for stuff like that, we could. But you'll know real quickly within 100 or so rounds that your firearm's going to feed reliably. Now, I understand there's going to be the internet melting down at times, but that is a decent sample. I would say I'd feel, and you're going to test it some more, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But I would say overall, it's a good initial test for sure.
Well, and I guarantee you, the way I was holding that pistol, if I did that with a 19 would stovepipe or failure to eject. I mean, everybody's had, even there's 17s and 19s. If you don't have a solid grip, it can jam up on you. So in that sense, I got the feeling it's cycling even better than a 19 would, or or a 17 in the same type of test. So that's just my feeling. Like you said, not scientific, but I think I had a good test, and I was really stoked about it. So now, Eric, I kind of would like to talk about 380 as a self-defense load. For a long time, even 9mm was thought of as, better than a stick, right?
Yep. Still is in a lot of circles, but anyway.
Yeah. So, but it's definitely, again, the key is the bullet and the load in any of these. Now, in my opinion, some of the tests that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit prove that 380 can be a viable self-defense cartridge. Full disclosure and caveat, if we can have our 9mm or 45 on us, we surely would do that.
Yep.
But for me, the key is with the 42 is out of all the pistols I've ever shot that were small, it shoots when it comes to recoil response or recoil impulse and shootability. As small as it still is a really good shooting gun. And I would say it's probably the smallest pistol that I could run like that. I think Glock really did a good job on engineering that 380. So, I just have to say this too, that, to mention a few people that we trust that actually carry 42s after doing a little bit of speaking with some of our training friends. Now, didn't speak directly with Greg Ellifritz, although, Greg, if you by chance hear this, we would love to talk to you if you go back on your vow not to do podcasts because you're so busy. We know Greg is busy writing. He is
Aaron, if I can add a little sugar, Greg's his blog is probably my go-to blog for firearm stuff. So, Greg, if you hear that, a little bit of a butt kissing there, if you want to come on and reciprocate.
Well, and so that's what I'm talking about. From his blogs, I've kept up with his thoughts on the 380. And long story short, several years ago, he basically said it wouldn't be a good choice, 380. But then in the last few years, he has not fully endorsed it, like, hey, gung-ho, go grab a 380. But he also carries a 42 from time to time. And he carries an LCP from time to time. So, again, he's going to choose the biggest gun he can, but he obviously has, you can read his blog, he has lots of situations and he has where he's carrying, and he has really well planned and thought out ways that he does it. And especially, you should read up on his non-permissive environment ways that he carries. It's pretty amazing.
Well, Aaron, if I can just interject there, his book, Choose Adventure, I'll throw in the show notes. I'll have to hit a note here for a second. That's an outstanding book, and we'll certainly push that. He talks about some of that in that book. That's a great book, by the way.
Yeah. Again, Greg's a great source of information and knows his stuff. So just saying that he's one guy that actually carries a 380 from time to time. One of our recent guests, Cliff Byerly, he mentioned to me on social media, he carries one from time to time, a Glock 42. And then our buddy, another former guest, the tactical dentist, Sherman House, one of his favorite carry pistols is a 42 also. Now, when it comes down to this, again, we have to be really clear. It's down to the projectile and the load. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of info that I've gathered. Now, Eric, remember that white paper that was on the internet where I don't know if it was actually Dr. Gary Roberts that actually put the info together or some individuals pulled his analyses together, but it was a great white paper that used his analysis to recommend, all the best service loads for all the popular calibers from 20. I don't think he has 22, but from smaller pistol calibers all the way up to the popular rifle rounds. Just amazing information. And
it's an awesome primer to Ballistics. Whomever put the source together, but
it's definitely based on there's lots of quotes, and it's based on Dr. Gary Roberts, who is one of the most foremost ballistics experts that is currently alive. So But on that white paper, they actually linked to a study that I'm going to talk about here, because they had not had any tests on 380 on that white paper, but they felt this analysis was quality, and they just pointed the reader to this analysis, and it's from the people over at shootingthebull.net. Now, what it comes down to is that we first need, before we go too far, when it comes to ballistics of bullets or anything that we're going to use on two-legged predators, we have to at least mention the concept of voluntary or involuntary stoppage. With pistols, the majority of the time, the stoppage is voluntary.
Yep.
Whether that person has a fatal wound and they die at the hospital, etc., they disengage because they realize they've been shot. That's very well known. The involuntary stoppage is fairly rare with a pistol, right?
Yeah, extenuation takes a lot with a pistol, for sure.
Sure. So I mean those are the typical encounters with pistol calibers specifically. So further into the basics of ballistics, most of our listeners are going to know about the basic FBI protocols, right, Eric?
Yep.
Which would be,
we talked about it a little bit.
Which would be the testing in properly calibrated ballistics gelatin, where in bare gelatin the projectiles penetrate at least 12 inches and no more than 18 inches. Now, of course, what that indicates is the 12 inches, right? If you look at a human being, most humans are, average build are less than a foot thick, right? So, but the point is they've estimated, they've been able to surmise that 12-inch minimum penetration accounts for bones and muscles and other organs that may slow down a bullet, right?
Well, Aaron, if I could stop you and add something to that, essentially that measurement, it's not using gelatin, is not using a human, but what they've found by the data, and they've got extensive data, is they found that actual penetration depth, it equates to effectiveness in a human body, and that gelatin is a very reproducible media, and that's the point. So when people want to argue, go ahead.
Exactly, yeah. So tests are repeatable and comparable, right?
Yep.
But then on the other end, right? And of course that 12 inches too accounts for different angles of shots. Yep. You may have to shoot someone from above, right? In whatever situation you're in, you may shoot them from the ground, and you're shooting in an up angle, right? There's all kinds of reasons to have
they're turned oblique to you from a 90-degree angle. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of aspects of it. Yeah.
So yeah, multiple permutations, a myriad, endless. But then on the other side of that, the 18 inches, right? They surmise that past 18 inches, you're probably going to have a projectile that's going to pass through a human. So that
which we want to avoid.
Mm-hmm. So in a nutshell, you have the minimum of 12 inches, the maximum of 18 inches. And they also, of course, a larger bullet is better, and a bullet that expands to 50% or 0.5 it is preferable. But all that said, penetration is the most important aspect.
Absolutely.
And to quote Dr. Martin Fackler, who again is a preeminent expert, no longer with us, but in ballistics, he said that over-penetration is bad, but under-penetration will get you killed. So that's why the primacy on penetration is focused on, and I kind of lost my train of thought on one other thing regarding pistol calibers. Eric, you know the amazing tactical professor Claude Warner is an advocate of the 22 caliber as a self-defense. And, you know, it comes down to shot placement and, again, penetration. And I'm sure he has his own projectiles that he recommends. I'll have to look that up someday. So, in other words, there are viable calibers outside of 9, 40, 45, etc., and the you know, revolver rounds. But so I'm going to go into this little bit of info real quick on the tests that Shooting the Bull put together. So when it comes down to it, they did 2 main tests, and that was in bare gelatin and then gelatin with 4 layers of denim in front of it. Now, so they're offering the bare gelatin measurements, the denim measurements, velocity, and then something that audience you might take a look at. There's also what's called the McPherson wound trauma incapacitation factor. Let me say that one more time. The McPherson wound trauma incapacitation factor, developed by Duncan McPherson. Now, in this, a factor above 25 is a solid performing incapacitating factor in his measurements. So when it comes down to these 380 loads, here's a very safe bet. If you find a load in 380 that has the 90 grain Hornady XTP round, bullet, then it's going to be a good load. Now, that XTP round from Hornady stands for extreme penetration. Now, the point is, when you put that in a cartridge like a 9mm or 45 with a lot higher powder content, that bullet has a major problem of over penetration, right? That only makes sense. But in the 380, it's a nice balance. Okay, so again, that bullet, if you're looking for a round for 380, it's a safe bet that you're probably going to get a good one finding a load with that projectile.
Aaron, if I can give a basic comparison in thought process, it's the same difference between a rifle cartridge that has expanding capabilities versus a solid core that is more for dangerous game. And now, granted, I'm going down a possible rabbit hole.
I follow you, buddy.
But that's really where that kind of physics comes from, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Again, it's just my opinion. It's my look at it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's a similar comparison, or
a similar convergence of
very well put. Yeah,
of application of the two.
You need the higher penetration with that bullet in comparison to a 300 Win Mag shooting a soft point versus a solid core 300 Win Mag that's going to serve you better in Africa versus against elk.
Yes.
in the high country. So, and again, I could be totally proven wrong, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Oh, it makes sense to me, buddy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through just a handful of these, the ones that stood out and that they found in their test were solid performing rounds. First off, what I use, which is the Hornady Custom, again with that 90 grain XTP. First off, in the bare gel, it was at a solid 13 inches. And guys, I'm leaving decimal points off here because I'm going to rattle off a bunch of decimals and lose some people. I learned that as an accountant presenting numbers. You don't give millions, you give thousands. and say they're millions. So, so the Hornady comes in at a bare gelatin depth of 13, average of 13 inches, and in the denim at 12 inches. That's running at a velocity of 851 feet per second. And the McPherson factor, it's at 25.81. So in that solid measurement of a good performer.
Well, man, at 800 feet per second, man, that's actually pretty impressive penetration.
Yeah, I agree. Now, here's another one that is not the XTP. I wanted to throw this in here, which is the Federal HydroShock 90 grain. Most people are familiar with the HydroShock, and they might want to hear about this. So the bare gelatin, again, right at 13 inches, like the Hornady load. The denim test, penetration of 15 inches. And that's running at a velocity of 889 feet per second. Now, the best one, pardon me, guys. The best one out of the bunch was the Precision 1 load, again, the 90 grain XTP, which had a bare gelatin penetration of 14 inches and the denim right at 14 inches also. That's running at a velocity of 810. Interesting enough, the lowest velocity. And then a McPherson factor of 28.28. So, again, those all meet the basic criteria for against the FBI protocols that judge a suitable service round. And I'll have to say this too. One issue. Remember, I mentioned that the goal is for each bullet to expand 0.5 times its original diameter. All of these come in at about 0.4. So not quite at that level, but again, still pretty solid performers in expansion for the smaller loads.
Well, Aaron, one more comment, and this is something where folks get bent around the axle. And full disclosure, you know my thought process. I still prefer 9. I don't have any 380s myself, but I also am totally against the sophomoric caliber debate. I've been for years. But folks will get bent around the axle around energy. They'll look at, you can do an easy calculation for the energy of a bullet at its pure velocity and the weight. You can calculate the energy in foot pounds, and folks will equate. Okay, it has more foot pounds. It's gotta have better terminal ballistics. That does not equate. It sometimes does, but the problem with that analysis is it does not equate for all of the other real physics, the Newton physics that's involved. So I just wanted to add that to your discussion. I think it's important for us to look at it that way, that just because on paper says it does X, Y, Z doesn't necessarily mean it translates that way. So it's why these reproducible medias and the FBI data that's most extensive is some of the best ways to analyze it.
Yeah, and as you know, the not even amateur ballistics experts I am or you are, but we study up on this stuff. The key is that, and everybody that does learn a little bit about this, it's a convergence of multiple physical factors that equate to the ending terminal performance. Just like, okay, a key example, right, is the counterintuitive fact that a proper load in 223 or 556 just happens to be safer in the home for over-penetration concerns than your pistol calibers. And then I've had people look at me like I was a dumbass for saying that.
me too.
They sit there and think, okay, it's running at 2,600 feet per second. I mean, just to throw a figure out there, versus a bullet that's going 1,000 feet per second. There's no way, okay, look at the physics, look at the tests. And we know that full well. And that's actually one of my friends that's an FBI SWAT team member. He said he explained to me a long time ago that was one of the reasons why they went away from the 9mm submachine guns, because they found that they had safer penetration levels with the 223. So again, it's just interesting to bear these things out with some data. And again, this test has become, at least for 380, a fairly good example and respected test with good results. Now, I do have to say this for people that are wondering, some of the loads that did not fare well were the Hornady Critical Defense, the Remington Golden Saber, and the Spear Gold Dot. And bear in mind, I think all of these rounds tested here were all 90 grain. But all of those, basically the problem with all of those rounds I just mentioned was poor penetration right off the bat, bare gelatin or denim. So it just knocked them off the table. Literally, let me just say, roughly 8 inches of penetration with those, off the top of my head.
Well, Aaron, I would like to comment, because there's going to be some people out there that are going to want to throw out other calibers. Your discussion is based on ballistics data, and your emphasis is on 380. Mm-hmm. Because I dig your journey on this, but I want to put out there for any of our audience members that wants to talk about other calibers. All right, if you look at the exact data that Aaron stated, the bare minimum penetration of 12 inches and excluding over penetration of 18 inches, choose your round. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that, Yeah,
you're talking about whatever caliber it is. If you can, if you can bang it up and melt some brass and lead in your garage, and you get those, man, build you a gun. You got a solid service caliber.
Exactly. I just wanted to, because there's going to be some folks out there that want to just split hairs. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I also, there's no defense here of the 380. It's just, I guess I'm just explaining that, I didn't come to the conclusion of my primary non-permissive environment pistol without doing my research, right?
Not at all.
Or at least continuing to use it without, making sure that I'm making everything, like with my optic, my new optic with the new guide rod spring and guide rod and the proper ammunition. I mean, it's all a package, like everything, man. It's a package. And what is the mission? My mission in this sense is to have the best shooting small pistol that I could find, and that's the one I've through my research and work has led me to. And like I said, some of our guys that we respect chimed in on one of my threads and stated they did too. So that's pretty cool.
And all dudes that have done the work and some seen the elephant. So I think their opinion is well worth noting for sure.
Sure. Well, I think that's it on my mini ballistics lesson here.
Well, awesome, Aaron. We've been talking about doing a discussion on ballistics for a long time, and it wasn't necessarily going to be about 380, but man, I thought you did a great job of enunciating the ballistics discussion on the backdrop of your use of 380, man. That's great, brother.
Yeah, and
I dug it.
Cool, man. And my journey, full circle of what I started with was needing to go to the dot on there and because of my new vision, my bionic vision that doesn't start till 3 feet, you know. But yeah, once again, man, I'm stoked about that little guy with my Holosun on it.
Well, I look forward to shooting it here pretty soon, brother. Maybe we can run off to the side range when we're in Alabama here for this.
Bro, we
get
we get to hang out together in about a month, man.
Yeah, man. Probably getting punched in the face and shot with Sims, but that's cool.
I hope he puts me with you so I can ground and pound you.
I welcome it, brother.
No, I'll run off when you get a hold of me.
Well, cool, man. What's that?
I said, if I can get away, I'll run off. I'll do some Nike jiu-jitsu if you get after me.
See, that's the problem. Is if I'm put in a scenario with you, man, you're a tough dude. You are. But man, I still have that twin in me, man. I'd have a lot of problem with putting heat on you, man. I don't know if I could do it, man.
Hey, same here. Same here.
Yeah, I'm sure, man. So, well, hey, man.
Cliff, if you're listening to this, this is not reverse psychology. Please don't put us together in Evos.
He's probably going to do so.
He's taking notes right now.
Awesome, man. I can't wait, man. It's going to be a good time. I'm so glad it's just less than a month away.
Heck yeah.
Let's take a minute to talk about Origin. Origin supports us on the path. To quote Jocko, if you listen, then you know. They produce the best jiu-jitsu gis on the market, rash guards, spats, and Jocko Fuel supplements. They make t-shirts, hoodies, leather boots, and belts, with all their products made in the USA by U.S. workers, bringing manufacturing back. If you're interested in any of these Origin products, please go to our show notes and click on the affiliate link. You can also find our affiliate link on our website, evosec.org, in our blog page. Also use EvoSec 10 at checkout for 10% off. And again, this episode is one of our Gear and Mindset episodes where we like to talk about gear, but our main focus is gear that helps us on the path. And I've been trying to think about one of the most important gear choices. Edit point, bro. Kind of came out wrong. So Aaron, I think one of the most important gear choices for all of us is heart rate monitors. So minus awareness, avoidance, and de-escalation skills, the most important skill is fitness. I mean, to quote Larry Lindemann, you can't shoot a heart attack in the face. And you know, the biggest killer in the world is heart disease. So one of the best ways for us to negate that is just even basic fitness. It doesn't have to be hardcore, but basic aerobic fitness we should all be concerned with. But I think one of the most important concerns when it relates to aerobic fitness is measuring it. And so having a measurement of your heart rate is very important in exercise. And before we go into heart rate monitors, I'd like to talk a little bit about what is basic aerobic fitness. And one of the things I'm going to point out, I'm not a fitness expert, don't claim to be. All of this that I've learned is from the real experts, several sources that we've talked about in the past, but one I'll point to is Joel Jameson of 8 Weeks Out.
Yeah, he's great.
I think he has one of the best sources. I mean, he's one of the most solid strength and conditioning coaches in the industry and in MMA and all sports. And so I'm gonna link in the show notes to his website because I've learned so much on that website. And another source would be episode 48 when we had Larry Lindemann on. And I'll say Larry, shout out to Larry. I think in our path in this integrated martial arts and integrated self-defense, I think he's one of the solid experts in fitness. So again, episode 48, go check that out because we talked about a lot of this. Essentially, we're concerned about two energy systems for aerobic fitness. And one is your aerobic and the other is your anaerobic system. So essentially what your aerobic system is you're burning ATP or adenosine triphosphate in the presence of oxygen. In anaerobic, you are burning ATP in the absence of oxygen. And there's all kinds of other factors to that. But again, this is just the 10,000 feet view. And how do we train those two sources? Energy sources, that is. It's not very hard. The point is that we want to make sure that we measure it. And the reason we want to measure it is we want to make sure that we're in those proper zones. And we also, Aaron, you probably agree, we don't want to run our heart into the ground too, right?
Right.
Because there is definitively safety issues, especially if you're new to these methods, that you don't want to hurt yourself or worse.
Yeah, make sure if you're going to get in on some of this stuff, talk to your doctor first.
You beat me to it. That's exactly what I was just about to say. Before doing any of this, make sure that you discuss with your doctor before you start on any kind of exercise regimen. With that said, Aaron, we always want to know what our max heart rate is. And again, all this is rule of thumb, very basic. If you really want to know what your max heart rate is, you need to ask your doctor to do a VO2 max test. And that's where you really know what your limits are. But needless to say, the basic equation is take 220 minus your age. So for Aaron and I, we're both 48. 220 minus 48 equals 172. So Aaron and I, in our exercise, we should try to keep from getting our heart rate up to 172. Now on the flip side of that, a 20-year-old max heart rate is 200. That's a big difference, isn't it, Aaron?
Yeah.
And that's something I also wanted to point out. As folks age, you got to be cognizant of that, and that's another reason why young people have athletic capabilities that in a lot of cases they're easier than folks that are older. Now, that's not to say that some of the folks on the older end of the spectrum can't clean the clock of a young person. I'm not saying that at all. It's just something to consider. So for Aaron and I, in our aerobic system, so that's the first system, which is where most people should spend their time, we essentially, well, let me digress a second. The basic equation for what your aerobic threshold is between 70 and 80% of your max heart rate. So for Aaron and I, that's essentially 120 to around 137. So if we're training for just aerobic fitness, that's the area that we want to train in, is at 120 to 137 beats per minute. Now, as far as our anaerobic threshold, which is going to be 85 to 90% of our max heart rate, that equates for us to be 146 to 154. And I'll be honest with you, Aaron, it's been a while since I looked at those numbers. And I guess it's because we've got older. In my brain, I'm always working in a threshold of in the 160s, the high 160s when I'm doing anaerobic work. And so it's like, I guess I've been pushing myself maybe a little harder in that threshold development. But now, fitness experts will tell me, yeah, it's okay to go to those higher rates. I agree with that. I mean, every now and then, if you're working towards an event or other activities that you need to work on that max heart rate, it's okay. But again, this is a reason why we're discussing heart rate monitors, is because you need to make sure that that you're not, redlining your heart, especially as you get older. For a lot of folks out there, they have wearables like Fitbits and whatnot. The problem that I've always found with Fitbits and some of the other wrist wearables is I've just not found that they're that accurate, especially in the higher heart rates. Like anywhere above 150, I just haven't found them to be accurate. And I've compared the two between a Fitbit I had and one of my my chest straps, and there was a difference between 10 beats per minute. Well, and that could be the difference between being, what you think is in your anaerobic threshold and you're redlining your heart,
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important.
Now, of course, Eric, not disputing what you're saying there. I can tell you my Fitbit's in the corner, just not being used because it's turned into junk. Now, I'm not as intense in my cardio workouts as you are, but I was going to mention this. I think, don't quote me on it, but I think Larry Lindemann at least uses his Apple Watch from time to time and trusts that well enough. But maybe it's not when he's maxing out or anything like that.
Well, so what I would be interested in, and that's a good point, Aaron, because that actually is something I was going to bring up, because Apple Watch also has the capabilities to interface with various chest straps.
Yeah, you're bringing up a point. Maybe he does use his chest strap with it, because I think it was you and I and Cecil were talking about it. So
yeah, so I think I'm gonna have to text Larry and ask him. And again, this is by no means scientific. These are just my thoughts on it, and bar none, I think it's just good to consider the chest straps for overall accuracy.
Oh, and I don't think we have to even give a caveat of science, more scientific, that, it's pretty well known that most serious, trainers trust a good chest strap system.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, good point. I'm going to have to text Larry and ask him if he uses his chest strap most of the time. With that said, I'm going to talk about two basic types of workouts, and then I'm going to give just a couple of recommendations on heart rate monitor straps and maybe a couple of watches. So, Aaron, for myself, I use, for basic aerobic development, I like to use Joel Jamieson's Roadwork 2.0. I've talked about this on the show before. I think we talked about it with Larry. But essentially all it is it's 45 minutes to an hour. You can go an hour and a half, that's fine, but personally, I get bored after an hour, if much more than an hour, and I'm done. That's just me. But essentially, Aaron, I'm trying to maintain that aerobic threshold of that 120 to 137. Sometimes I just try to aim for that 130-ish, and I know you do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I go between my treadmill, jump rope, kettlebell swings, my rower, shadow box, jiu-jitsu drills, but the whole time I'm keeping my heart rate above that 120 mark. So, and I don't get bored. And for anaerobic, this is my very basic workout. It expands and contracts depending on what I'm doing. And that's 10 intervals hitting anaerobic threshold. So I get into that anaerobic threshold of goodness gracious, I'm trying, 146 to 154. Man, I got all these numbers in my head. But I go above 145 and I try to hit around 160-ish. And I do that 10 times. And every single time I hit that range, I'll stay in it about 20 seconds or so. And then I'll let my heart rate recover back down to 120. And then I'll do it again. So I just do that 10 times. Again, I'll hit my anaerobic threshold, stay in it for 20 seconds, and then let my heart rate recover to 120. And those two basic workouts, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish, they're, let's just lay it out the basics for somebody that's new at it. Try 8 weeks of only doing aerobic development 3 times a week. And then at 8 weeks, go from 2 aerobic exercise elements and then add 1 anaerobic. So we'll just leave it right there. So if folks in the basic realm and intermediate just stick to those 2 developments, if you're getting ready for an event and you need to add 2 of those aerobic, anaerobic events a week, then go for it. To me, for average people, those of us on this path that we're trying to do jiu-jitsu, we're trying to be ready for an actual self-defense event, if we're keeping with those 2 energy systems and doing 3 of those aerobic workouts a week, and then for a duration doing 2 of those workouts and adding your anaerobic threshold work, then you're going to be golden. Again, we're not talking about strength work, but this is just, cardio development.
Well, and I like how you put it. I mean, it's not that hard of a formula. And that those, your suggestions on the 2 aerobic and then 1 anaerobic, I mean, that's pretty easy for people to get done. Just got to, like me, encourage myself to go ahead and make sure I'm getting it done.
Well, and Aaron, I didn't talk about the modalities that I normally do to get into anaerobic. And I use both my rower or my treadmill. I'll set at a high incline and run to get into that threshold. Or right now, because I'm limiting my running, I mainly do it on my rower, or I'll row real hard and then I'll jump up and grab my kettlebell and do kettlebell swings till I get into that threshold is the current method I'm using. Because, man, it's hard for me to run real hard with my back. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. But there's whatever method you use, you can use a bike, an Aerodyne, whatever, to get into that anaerobic threshold. But the main point is to have a device that measures that. So with that said, I'm going to be honest with what I use, and I think it's one of the better choices out there, and that's the Garmin HRM Dual. The problem with the Garmin HRM Dual is it's it's compatible with some apps, but it's not as readily compatible with as many apps as some of the other straps out there. But I prefer to go with a strap and a watch combo, and I'm using the Garmin Instincts Solar. It's just a good combo for me. It's a little more expensive. On the for the strap, you're looking at about $55, and for the watch, it's looking around $300, $320. I know that's not for everybody, but if you're investing in this path, it may be something worth looking at. There's a lot of other options with that watch. I mean, it's a smart watch. I don't care for the smart watch functions, but there's other aspects to it that I like. On the cheaper end, the Polar H10 it's compatible with all kinds of apps, so you don't necessarily have to have a watch. And it's running around the $50, $59 realm. So as long as you got your phone and you can grab the Polar H10, you're going to have some application that's going to give you the option to monitor your heart rate accurately. But the cool part about the H10 is it's also compatible with all kinds of watches, smartwatch, probably your average smartwatch. It's likely compatible, but Apple Watches, Garmin's, Suuntos, there's several watches out there that a lot of folks have that it's compatible with. And of course, as normal, I'm going to have all these in the show notes, and so that way folks can go check those out. But honestly, Aaron, I think that closes out this segment.
Man, good stuff, and I like your reminder that I remember it from Larry giving me some encouragement that my not anaerobic, see, you messed me up, Eric, saying it earlier. My aerobic workout did not need to be as intense as I was making it. So thanks for the reminder as I'm doing a little conditioning work here, buddy. Before
Aaron,
Cliff puts us through the ringer.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to add to that, Aaron. Again, when you're doing strength training, anaerobic training, especially, man, as I've gotten older, I can't do them all at the same time. I've mentioned this before. If I'm working on conditioning, I do blocks, 8 weeks at a time. And I'm back to a conditioning block. But I'm still doing one or two strength workouts. But the bottom line is you're correct. They don't need to be that intense unless you're getting ready for some big event. I think that it's prudent to up the intensity. But yeah, I mean, you're training super hard all the time with everything we have going on. Yeah, I don't think that's feasible for most people unless you're a CrossFit athlete or a professional athlete or even a high level amateur athlete. I don't think it's necessary.
Well, good deal, brother. Well, we're going to try and do a quick little bit of accountability here in a little bit, but I just wanted to mention one other topic here. Now, this is just a prime opportunity to encourage those out there that sometimes have to leave their pistol in their car. Have a good friend that, man, is switched on. He is on the path. He's become he is becoming one of my most important jiu-jitsu partners and coaches. Just a good old friend. But he has been a little bit new to the concealed carry lifestyle. Now, unfortunately, he went out to dinner with his wife and left his pistol in his truck and came out to have his truck broken into and his pistol gone. And amazing enough, the truck right next to him had the same thing happen. So 2 pistols stolen right there. And when the police came, they said this was a trend that there's a group of people that are targeting steakhouses, parking lots of steakhouses, and trucks. So just interesting little aspect of this little trend.
Well, Aaron, I'd like to comment on that. We hadn't had that discussion. That is interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It kind of seems like a demographic.
Yeah.
Kind of, and criminals are not dumb.
Nope,
they aren't dumb at all when it comes to that. That's interesting. Go ahead.
So we just wanted to encourage listeners. Now, we've all been there before we were in this very long, where, you know, my gun's safe in my car. I need to carry it with me, but I can't carry it into the post office, or I can't carry it into work. So, you know, I'm going to carry it and I'm going to unload it, put it in my glove box, and it'll be good to go. But Eric, what's the saying that we've come to use, and some of our mentors?
Well, that your car or your vehicle is in a holster.
Mm-hmm. So if
and I want to be careful, we're not beating up on our buddy at all. No. He is absolutely switched on. He is a good dude and is on the path. He's doing awesome. It's just we're using this as a learning opportunity.
And it's a real example that hits home. So for me, I use just a simple Liberty safe, car safe, that uses a cable lock that I put under my seat. Luckily, there's not a lot of times that I'm carrying where I have to download it into that safe, but that's an inexpensive and easy way to go. Now, wouldn't I prefer to install a safe into my car? Definitely. I'm sure that would be better, just like maybe the 22 versus the 9mm. But, you know, I'm pretty confident that my pistol is not just a smash and grab away. Now, if somebody's got some cable cutters, you know, they've come better prepared. But so I would just suggest giving a quick Google search, or maybe not Google, but maybe DuckDuckGo, and take a look at car pistol safes. There's everything from, you know, these inexpensive ones, you know, run in the $40-$50 range. I think mine was about $70, on into as fancy as you can go, custom installations. But
well, Aaron, go ahead. I'm sorry, buddy.
Just saying, it's frankly, when it gets down to it, it's irresponsible to not lock up your pistol if you can't carry it on you. It just like it's irresponsible to have a safe that's open when you got teenage kids, you know.
Well, Aaron, I agree, and you hit it on the head. We're most concerned about smash and grab, which is the highest percentage of firearms thefts. So as long as folks start concerning themselves with dealing with that, then we're moving in the right direction. And I actually use the Voltec LifeProof. It's, and you know, I'm holding it. The audience can't see it because we're not filming here, but it's got you might be able to hear the keys going off there, but it's a solid case similar to yours. It's cable lock, and we were laughing a little bit. It seems like the only place where we download is when we're going to jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there. I never had to lock my pistol in my vehicle other than at jiu-jitsu. I guess we've also locked our pistols in our vehicles when we've taken scenario-based classes, ECQC and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, that's another source, and that's a little. I think I paid around $100 for that, but Like the Liberty, I think that's probably one of the better ways to go. But yeah,
yes, it's just a key lock, very simple, but effective. So,
well, cool, Aaron. Well, we're getting a little long in the tooth. Maybe just an abbreviated accountability. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'll start out since I'm sitting here looking at my notes here. Dealing with this COVID junk, I've only been able to beat it. It's been a couple of weeks since we put out an episode, maybe even longer. Let me think about that. But I've only been able to go to jiu-jitsu once each week because I've still been a little weak, and I also didn't want people concerned they were going to get COVID from me too. But so, and then I've been doing some walks with my wife again as I've been recovering. So, not a ton of exercise lately, but I have started upping that this week because, again, got to be in a little bit better shape for Cliff Byerly's class. But one fun thing is that I did do an IDPA match this weekend, and I'll talk about this on the next episode with our really cool guest, but I actually started having some problems with my optic at this match on my 17 MOS. And so I had this match and started realizing that my optic was shutting off when I put it in my holster. So each draw I had to turn my optic on and use that. I'm sorry, I just hate that 30 MOA circle and the dot in the middle. I mean, you're just like, how can you be super accurate with that? At least still with a little bit of astigmatism. But even with that, I ended up having a 4th place overall, which is pretty cool to me.
You rock, man. Awesome.
Well,
saw the results, man. I was pumped.
Well, I'm never out there to just smoke everybody on the field. I'm there to get better and do the best that I can. And the fact is that I'm improving over my last match self every match lately. And this has been along that same trend. So to have that 4th place and dealing with my optics slowing me down, I'll tell you, it was a fun day. Just had a blast. It was a beautiful, ended up being about a 65, 70 degree day, and just had a lot of fun with great people. Again, everybody on that, encourage you like we have often, go to a local match if you've never been. If it's been a long time since you've gone, start going again. Ammo's expensive, but not as expensive. You can get to a match every couple months. People there are a blast. They're all with you to get better. And the guy that was right above me, who is in expert class, which is where I'm trying to get to right now, he was like, "Man, Aaron, you've really improved since I've seen you shoot," and which was a nice compliment because that guy is really good, and let me just say, a super cool guy. But again, looks like my voice is kind of going out again here, Eric. So before I hand it off to you for some accountability, I'm going to start out by saying, oh yeah, have I talked about getting my new guitar on the air yet?
No, you hadn't.
Yeah, I can go into this some more later, but I did after 4.5 years. Can't even say his name. Saul Cole sent me my semi-hollow body that is the AD16 model, which is very similar to a high-end Gibson ES335, but with Saul's twist and some ideas I had. And man, it's a spectacular guitar. So
beautiful guitar, man.
Thank you. I'm sitting here looking at it.
I'm looking forward to eventually getting some guitar tracks my way so we can do some music for EvoSec.
Bro, I was thinking about it today that there's a song that I've been kicking around for a long time that I need to record for you. Just got to make some time to do it. So throwing the accountability off to you, brother. I see that drum set behind you. Are you still practicing like you're supposed to in the mornings and such?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't say I'm practicing every day. I would say it's I'd say at a minimum I never miss 3 or 4 times a week.
Rock on.
Because my focus is certainly on my jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah, and you've been doing a lot of early morning classes, haven't you?
Oh yeah, man. I'm speaking of which, man, I'm super pumped. My gym is now doing 3 0600 classes or 6 a.m., which, man, I'm gonna lay it out there. I love getting my workouts done in the morning because, again, the day can't take it away from me. Evening classes, I make it to evening classes, but we have our EvoSec, we have shooting, we have all these other things, family, that sometimes may get in the way to evening classes sometimes. So the more opportunities for the morning, man, the better. So yeah, I'm super pumped about having the morning classes at my gym. So yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, my basic accountability, man, COVID kicked my ass for a little while. And even before that, I had a sinus infection, the second one of the winter. So man, I was sick for like 3 weeks. So my workouts were very limited and they were very light. And essentially I was off the jiu-jitsu mats for that 3 weeks.
Dang.
Just because I was contagious.
Yeah.
With the infection, and then I was contagious with COVID, and boy, that irritated me the most. I didn't feel that bad, it was a crappy cold, essentially COVID, that is Fauci, but I couldn't go because I didn't want to expose other people to it.
Hey, so. We got to make clear, man, it's real. And
it is real,
and
absolutely.
The fact is that, just sorry to digress, it has been, everybody I know, this latest variant has been basically just a cold. But one thing is for sure, it's the most contagious thing I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
One of my buddies gave it to me and another buddy at a rolling session, and we all gave it to our families, and nothing flat. And then my whole office, more than 50% of the people tested positive with it, and we're dealing with it. So yeah, doesn't seem to be as serious, right? Or excuse me, doesn't seem. It's clearly been not as serious as a variant, but man, let's just say easily, 10 times, just to throw a number out there, as contagious.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for an example, real quick, I was the only person unvaccinated by choice. At my particular work, my agency, there were 12 cases in the same week. I was the only one that was unvaccinated. So all the other 11 people were vaccinated, got it too.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's what I've heard too. Again, one of my friends that's a nurse, she said that everybody in her area at the hospital, everybody that had gotten it had their vaccinations too. So yeah. Just food for thought.
So Aaron, to make this quick, I had 2 jiu-jitsu sessions because that's the way my COVID stuff worked out. I tested negative, and a couple of days later, I went to jiu-jitsu immediately when I knew I was good to go. And shout out to Chris Curry, and shout out to Chris and Greg. My 2 buddies had an excellent garage session on Sunday, so that was great. Working some turtle breakdowns from John Danaher. That was some good stuff. So COVID had me studying a lot and reading. I'm continuing the Iliad and added Dante's great comedy kind of hitting in and out of the great books 101 and 102 from Hillsdale. So those two classes have me digging into those books. So
good deal.
With that said, man, I'm going to just call that my accountability, man.
Still, that's pretty good stuff, man. Not still. I didn't mean to say that. I said that's some good stuff. Well, it's fun to have gotten together, and it's been a while since we've done a host only. So, and again, always a blast to get to chat with you, and even funner when we get to do it over some webcams. So,
always, man.
Well, bro,
excellent time, bro.
Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna go play my guitar for a little bit.
Sounds good, man. I'm gonna go spend a little time with my wife before bedtime. It's about almost 2200 here right now, so probably gonna go to bed here soon. But man, great talking with you, man. Good time. Have a good one, man.
You too. Good night, buddy.